¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday morning. How's it going, Mayhem Hippie, Mr. Astro? Happy summer solstice from a mild, sunny London. It is the summer solstice, is it not? I'm not sure, to be honest. How's it going, everybody? Today, blessed solstice. Yes, it was at 5:13 this a.m. this morning. Cool. Yes, after today, we are on our way back to winter. Nice. I am looking forward to that. Although this week, I believe there's going to be a heat wave down here anyways. Maybe after that, we'll go into winter. Summer hasn't even gotten here yet. We had to fire up the wood stove this weekend. Ooh. I think the low for today is like gonna be, I think, 70s. I think. I believe we're gonna have a very grim winter. What? That's not good. It's definitely gonna be out of place. A lot of these normal climate patterns are probably gonna be disrupted. I mean, we saw an article yesterday about those 4 buildings in the observatory, how it's like in one blink of an eye, you'll go from fire season to flooding in just 2 months' notice. We're finally getting above 70 this week, even gonna see 90 this week, but then it drops right back down. Sheesh. At least here, it's gonna get really hot this week because of a heat wave. Today is a mass rail strike start in the UK. Wow. All right, folks, we've got, quite a bit of things on the docket. I shared an article on Discord today. It was interesting read. It would be cool to see more states doing something like this. Oh, yeah. I've got it queued up. I saw that. So, yesterday, as we were heading out, apparently Tina, started a hype train in an offline, chat over here, which was pretty amazing. A level 1 hype train was triggered and I wasn't even there for it. So, first of all, thank you, Tina. Thank you, chat. I appreciate that. Go, Tina, true. There are several trade unions planning mass strikes due to wage and economic conditions. Nice. Hopefully they can negotiate good terms. I see. She subscribed to my channel, and Mayhem Hippie gave 200 biddies, and then right now that I get to see everything again, Mayhem Hippie cheering 300 biddies. That's right, folks. 300 with a 300. Thank you, I appreciate that. On that note, please go follow Tina. Oh. I want to go over this article again because I feel like I feel like it needs to be emphasized. It's not being talked about nearly enough. This literally should be everywhere. So I think we're gonna emphasize on this here. Okay, perfect. So yesterday we went over this, but I feel like it needs to be more emphasized. The Texas GOP adopts resolution. This is the official party platform for the state Republican Party. Texas, I would say, has a kind of the perception is that Texas is a very influential conservative kind of stronghold. Whatever happens in Texas is very influential when it comes to conservatives. So, that being said, I think it's very important to pay attention to this. This is the Texas Republican Party platform. The Republican Party of Texas over the weekend adopted a resolution at its state convention that rejects Joe Biden as the winner of the 2020 election, further aligning the state party establishment with former President Trump and pushing false election claims. Yeah, we're moving into some dangerous territory here, folks. The idea that the Republican Party is getting more and more comfortable, meaning they're more brazen about it. Not that it's new, but they're more brazen about it. This anti-democratic theme is just really, really, really brazen at this point. Texas, the insanity is big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. I saw this house is not an act of traitors. I mean, it's definitely a anti-democratic act. That's for sure. We reject the certified, imagine, just take that in. We reject the certified results of the 2020 presidential election. So, yeah, we understand that it was certified, it was good, but we just reject that. We hold that acting president Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. was not legitimately elected by the people of the United States. Great. Care to provide evidence? Cab 3773. I am in Texas. I apologize for my people. Don't. I'm ashamed to say I was born and raised in Texas. I refuse to visit my family there anymore. I do not want to contribute to their economy at all. Yeah, I mean, I had to... I'm in Florida, or was in Florida. So, I don't know. Was not legitimately elected by the people of the U.S. reads the resolution passed by voice vote in Houston on Saturday. We strongly urge all Republicans to work to ensure election integrity and to show up to vote in November of 2022. Bring your friends, family, volunteer for your local Republicans, and overwhelm any possible fraud. Before the final resolution was adopted, Brian Bodine, a platform committee member who says he wrote the resolution, proposed an amendment about the January 6th insurrection. It asserted that the rights of those charged with crimes have been violated and rejected the narrative that the events in the U.S. Capitol represented an insurrection. Yeah, for the umpteenth time, the exact definition of an insurrection is a violent uprising against an authority or government. We reject the certified results of the 2020 presidential election. Yeah. I mean, the proposal drew applauses and "Let's go Brandon" chants. Jesus Christ. Like, are these people like the mentality of like kindergartners? These are elected state representatives. Government, like, elected officials. This is what happens when Republicans win elections. That's it. Like, I can't stress this enough. This is what happens when Republicans win elections. Is this about Crenshaw getting harassed? No. This is never mind that. This is far worse. The Texas Republican Party platform. The platform also included a section calling homosexuality an abnormal lifestyle choice and opposing all efforts to validate trans identity. The state's party platform has not been finalized. James Wilzelek, a spokesperson for the Texas GOP, told CNN, but votes are being tallied on each individual plank. Also during the convention, Texas Senator John Cornyn, a lead GOP negotiator on bipartisan gun talks, received boos from his home state, saying that he fought and kept President Biden's gun-grabbing wish list off the table. Okay, this is part of Cornyn's speech. The party also unanimously adopted a resolution by voice vote rejecting the bipartisan gun agreement and rebuking Cornyn and other GOP negotiators, including Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Mitt Romney, Pat Toomey, Tom Tillis, Rob Portman, Roy Blunt. So, yeah. Oh, so they're gearing up to make it harder to vote and get the most vulnerable people and make the most vulnerable people in the population targets. Oh, yeah. But like officially, this is the platform of the Texas State GOP. Like, we're moving into some dark territory when you've got the Republican Party in Texas making official statements, not one random extremist, not even a handful of them. The official platform The official state of Texas Republican Party platform is making statements like, we reject the certified results of the 2020 election. We reject the narrative that what happened at January 6th wasn't anything but an insurrection. The party told you to reject all evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final and most essential command. Listen, don't pay attention to the videos. Don't pay attention to all the documents. Don't pay attention to any evidence that would contradict what we've primed you for months and months and months to believe. Never mind that. Reject any evidence that you see. It was their final and most essential command. So fascism. These folks are definitely moving, if not some kind of pseudo-fascism, outright authoritarianism. The GOP is gearing up to take over not just states, the entire country. Look at their moves lately. Fascism is coming to town in 2024. Yeah. There are some deeply concerning movements. Unfortunately. An example, which we went over, Mayhem Hippie, of how Republican operatives are beginning to mobilize and organize not only poll workers, but lawyers, friendly district attorney generals, and creating networks so that when the election happens in 2024, because this one, I don't believe that they're going to do much here, because let's be honest, it is more likely than not that the GOP makes gains in this midterm election. Maybe they even flip one of the houses, whether it be Senate or House. Maybe they even flip, or both. Who knows? Who knows how strong the GOP is going to come out for this midterm? But it seems the perception is that they're very confident about that. However, when it comes down in 2024, they're laying down the network to challenge any future elections. I think that it is a dubious misunderstanding of how this process works, but they're gearing up for it. They're getting ready. What about these candidates who are running for Secretary of State? A absolutely crucial position. For elections. It's probably the most important position for elections. I think America failed, and it's basically a slow-motion fascist takeover. Man, I don't want to say it is so, but it's not looking good. The Dems do not have a viable person to push to the front. Bernie's the only one that could possibly get the progressive, independent, and liberal vote, and the DNC won't let him have it. Yeah, and unfortunately, at this point in time, it's like, yeah, okay, it's too late. The time was in 2016. That's when the time was. Maybe in the 2020 election, the 2020 primary against Joe Biden, maybe that would have been like the ultimate Hail Mary, but the time was 2016. That's when we needed to pump the brakes on this authoritarianism coming from the right. Donald Trump should have never been allowed to win that election. The fact that, like, the Democratic Party decided to shoehorn Hillary Clinton was just an absolutely asinine mistake. The DNC would never let Bernie or anyone close to Bernie's name even near the ballots. The Bernie flame has passed. The left is scared shitless right now, and rightfully so. Yeah, it looks like it looks very bad. I'm not gonna lie. That's why I'm stressing so hard to make it a point to illustrate what happens when Republicans win elections. It's not good. And let's be clear. This ideology, this thought process, is the Republican thought. This is the standard conservative thought process, right? And they're just saying it out loud. That's it. That's it. The fact that they can't come to terms or don't want to come to terms, the fact that about the events, an example, about the election, about the events that happened in January 6th, and then like applauding and screeching, "Let's go, Brandon." I mean, these are elected officials. Hey, Fu Manchu. Have you been mean to other chatters yesterday? I'm never an advocate for violence. I have kids, and I do not want to see a war-torn country either. How the f ever? However, I think violence is coming. A revolution needs to happen in order to. Hey, who is this? I think a revolution needs to happen in order to save some thread of our democracy. Just one problem with that. These folks want nothing more. These folks want nothing more. They want that green light. They want that green light because as soon as it happens, this might sound like a total conspiracy, but we have been arming Nazi groups in Ukraine with untraceable arms, and we have our own groups here. Like it's something big will happen. Nah, I don't think so. Nah. I don't know about like specifically arming. Like, nah, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it's like that, Thundera. The problem with that mayhem hippie is there's a lot of far right militia groups that would want nothing more than to have the excuse, literally frothing at the mouth, it's not specifically arming only them. The problem it's them too. I think you would be surprised on how well armed the left is. I see it here all the time. We love our guns. I know how many communes that are more well armed than you would ever think. Oh, I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know. I'm just very afraid. I'm just very afraid. Maybe I'm the one that's underestimating, but I would be very afraid. Because losing means everybody here gets clapped. And now we have Hillary making rounds saying don't campaign on trans rights because this election is too important. Waiting for Hillary just to stop and retire in peace instead of her saying dumb shit. The NATO's giving the Azov Nazis all shout-outs all the time and posting their pics promoting them as official. Sheesh. Yikes. Why is NATO shouting out any, like, specific group at all? Okay. That's cringe. Oh, I am too. Please do not mistake that. I hope like hell it will not come to that. But sadly, if you look at history, the outlook is grim. Yeah. Why? That's why I'm like, yeah. That's why I am very heavy-handed when it comes to rhetoric of like anything related to civil war or anything like that. It's like nope. Don't even call that into existence because that's yeah. That's why I'm so critical of, like, Tim Pool, too. For, like, every freaking other week, it's another video of how we're inching on the way to civil war. Because, of course, like I said, they're literally frothing at the mouth. That's why we're gearing up our homestead as much as possible and talking with neighbors. We are not the only ones. That's a good thing. Like, just in general, good principles to have, like, very good relations and talks with your neighbors. Yeah, that's crucial. Not only just for, like, mutual aid, but mutual defense, too. NATO posts pics of the Azov battalion and doesn't even hide their Nazi symbols anymore, but the NYT edits it out. We know there's red states. They forget SCOTUS didn't recognize Trump as the 2020 election winner. It's not about forgetting that the SCOTUS didn't recognize or did as Trump didn't recognize Trump as the winner. That's not the SCOTUS's job. And they didn't forget. They're openly anti-democratic. I hate to say doomsday prepper, but we're seeing it become more and more common here. It's not as perceived as an if, but a when. Because we're so very rural, we know our community will suffer supply chains quickly. Yikes. I mean, like I said, talk to your neighbors. That's a good idea, Mayhem Hippie. Just for anything regarding, like, mutual aid, food, and whatnot. There's nothing left to say about the Dems. They dug a hole so deep. Yeah, pretty much. And like I said, reading this Republican Texas state platform, the Texas Republican Party platform, the only thing that rings in the back of my head is just Nancy Pelosi's "We need a strong Republican Party." Like, that's the only thing that echoes in the back of my head. How could you do this? How could you say something like this? Hey Eric, how's it going? How could you say something so off base? There's just no excuse for it. There's just no excuse for it. It goes. Well, that's good to hear. We asked for COVID relief, living wages, and had the biggest, longest protests in history to reallocate police budgets into communities because they won't stop killing and terrorizing people. And they said, nah, here's more cops with bigger budgets, among other things. But yes. If everyone needs a safe place that doesn't mind hard work in the future, come on up. I'm getting word, but please have some faith. The Republicans and MAGA still freedom even if they win. The scandals will reduce their power. No, the scandals drive their power. Look, it's cancel culture. No excuses. No excuses. This is what happens when Republicans win. And just to be clear, this is just Texas, right? Do you think it's just there? No.
I'm Eric Greitens, Navy SEAL, and today we're going rhino hunting. The rhino feeds on corruption and is marked by the stripes of cowardice. Join the MAGA crew, get a rhino hunting permit. There's no bagging limit, no tagging limit, and it doesn't expire until we save our country.
The Republican Party, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I saw this yesterday, giga cringe. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Wasn't he forced to resign as a governor? Maybe, I don't know. He's running as a senator, I think, for the Republican nomination, I think. They will exert their control and power and hide behind a Christian extremist viewpoint. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing, yes. He doesn't even clear a house properly. Some seal. Yeah, he allegedly, from what I understand, he's not actually like a full Navy SEAL. I think he was a reserve. A Navy reserve. Maybe I could be wrong on that. So take that one with a grain of sand. Trump has made many... They're not mistakes. They're not mistakes, Alio. These aren't mistakes. They're deliberate. I believe it will continue. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna stop. That's why I'm being so... that's why I'm stressing the fact that this is what happens when they get elected. That kind of material should be banned. Yeah, I think so. Making thinly veiled threats against, thinly veiled threats of, physical harm, probably shouldn't be allowed. Probably shouldn't be allowed. I just hope this channel does not get too doomer. I don't know about doomer. It's more of a looking at a realistic viewpoint. Realistic viewpoint of assessing the world as it is, and then transforming that into a way of saying, okay, well, what can we do about this? In my state, the GOP controls Congress, but we have a Dem governor, but almost all the GOP gubernatorial candidates got disqualified. Do you think we're going to be at risk for abortion laws? I mean, the problem is, do you have a GOP supermajority in the state legislature? Because if you do, they can override a veto. Otherwise, you're good. They'll just keep, the governor can just keep governors can just keep vetoing it. Can you imagine children may see that wicked stuff? Yeah. Yeah. This video got banned on Facebook, but Twitter has left it up Twitter has determined that this may be in the public's interest for the tweet to remain accessible. Yeah, I think it's in the public interest to watch the Republican Party just literally taking out ads threatening other Republicans. It seems like every state may be at risk of being affected by other states' abortion laws unless your state is taking proactive laws to counter. I don't think Doomer, I may prep like it, but seriously, get out and vote. Run in your local offices, make noise, and be heard. True. True, and more importantly, do what Mayhem Hippie's doing. Get to know your neighbors. Get to know your neighbors. Establish relations for mutual aid. This is the Republican Party, folks. This is the Republican Party. This is the Republican Party.
Hey y'all, I was sick all last week, which is why. Thank you for sticking with me. In the description. Hey y'all, I was sick all last week, which is why there was no podcast episodes. Thank you for sticking with me. In the description, there's a list link of all the news headlines I would have covered last week.
This has been the GOP since Nixon. Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that it's more brazen. They are moving very, very quickly to an outwardly extremist position. I found that offensive and very shocking. Well, that's the GOP here. That's literally the Republican Party. That's them.
I definitely recommend glancing through that list. And if I sound still a little congested, that's why. Okay, back to today's episode. Can buildings take up carbon dioxide? And why was an award-winning Vietnamese environmentalist arrested? Welcome to the Climate Recap from the Beckosphere Climate Corner, your go-to place for international and US-based climate news.
They know their ideas are unpopular but refuse to change. Yeah, it's not about change, it's about imposing their will. It's not about change. It's about imposition. Like, the majority of the country can feel a type of way, but they won't care. It's not about whether it's popular. They're more popular and tend to resonate with poor white people and racists. You'd think so. I don't know. I think as a broad overview, I don't think a lot of people when you ask people without asking, if you present a person with ideas, not a Republican platform or not a Democrat platform, if you present somebody with ideas, generally speaking, they will agree more often than not with more progressive ideas than they would conservative ideas. But things get wonky and skewed the moment you start saying that this is from an R or a D next to it. I mean, well, I wouldn't say that they're a small group either. Clearly, there's enough to become a mainstream, basically, that is the Republican Party, right?
I'm Becky Hogue, a science writer. Today is Monday, June 20th. Let's jump right into the news you need to start your day. Let's start with all the extreme weather events that took place over the weekend. Southern China experienced record rainfall, heat waves, and a tornado at the same time. The largest area hit by this combination of extreme weather events was the megacity Guangzhou, where millions have been displaced. Southern China expects to see extreme rainfall until Tuesday. This round started on Friday, but it was soon after a previous rainfall event. At least 7 provinces have issued storm and flood warnings. Meanwhile, temperatures surpassed 104 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius. Over in Bangladesh and India, monsoon storms have killed at least 41 people and left millions stranded this weekend. These floods are potentially the worst Bangladesh has seen since 2004. This is because these floods have been exacerbated by simultaneous flooding in the Indian mountains. Rains are expected to continue through today. Western Europe, so France, Germany, Spain, Poland, and Austria, saw potentially historic June heat waves over the weekend. The countries reached about 104 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius or over. Catalonia, Spain is battling 3 wildfires right now that have already burned a total of 3,950 acres, or 1,600 hectares.
Jesus.
In the U.S., more than 60 million people from Southern California to West Virginia down to Florida saw extreme heat and humidity this weekend as temperatures reached in the 90s and hundreds. More than 1,850 heat records were broken last week.
What?
Thousands of cattle were killed by heat and humidity in Kansas.
Yikes.
And the water supply for Montanan cities around Yellowstone National Park is being jeopardized by record flooding. Yellowstone is experiencing a once in 500-year flood, if not once in 1,000 years. One city impacted is the state's most populous, Billings. Now on to a climate study. Mining waste management is becoming a more pressing concern as mining ramps up globally for the clean energy transition, and yet extreme weather events, particularly extreme rainfall, can destabilize waste facilities. Mining can lead to a lot of toxic byproducts such as ammonia, lead, arsenic, cyanide, pressed rock, and wastewater. A new report by Earthworks, Mining Watch Canada, and the London Mining Network has determined that current waste management methods are insufficient. Their work is backed by 150 community groups, environmental organizations, indigenous communities, and scientists. Mining waste dams are breaking more and more, particularly in Brazil, and this has resulted in hundreds of deaths. The study recommends strengthening dam monitoring and inspections, gaining consent from neighboring communities, and conducting annual evacuation drills. Now let's look at some climate victories. The heat waves in Europe are jacking up energy use as people are trying to cool their houses off with air conditioning, and the influx of solar to the grid is meeting this increased demand. In Germany, solar has produced record energy generation. At one point in the afternoon last Wednesday, solar represented 60% of the state's energy supply.
It got up to 125 in Iran yesterday. Sheesh.
For context, about 10% of Germany's annual energy consumption is met by solar. The country has a new goal to increase solar generation from 59 gigawatts to 200 gigawatts by 2030. That same day, solar represented 23% of Spain's energy generation, 19% of France's, 23% of the UK's, and 27% of Italy's, which are all high percentages compared to their annual averages. Over in the US, the Center for Biological Diversity and Wild Earth Guardians are suing the Interior Department's Bureau of Land Management for violating 3 federal laws and 2 executive orders by approving more than 3,500 oil and gas permits in New Mexico and Wyoming. The groups are represented by the Western Environmental Law Center. The lawsuit claims that while the BLM recognizes that drilling on federal lands represents 8% of the nation's emissions, the Bureau doesn't account for how these emissions impact endangered plants and animals. I'll let you know if this goes anywhere. Meanwhile, the Energy Department announced it gave 18 new grants, which represents $39 million.
Good morning. Howdy, howdy. How's it going, Heat? So first and foremost, folks, if you have a moment, please check out twitch.tv/AlioShare. Please go check out twitch.tv. Oops. Heat420 _ Go show them some love here.
$1 million to incentivize research into buildings that can pull carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. These universities and research labs are coming up with materials to take up CO2 by replacing existing building materials like lumber, cement, and insulation. Right now, the building sector represents over 40% of annual U.S. emissions. The U.S. House just passed a bill to allow for gas with 15% of ethanol in it called E15. Gas with more ethanol tends to be cheaper, and it might also reduce emissions at the pump, though that depends on how biofuel is sourced. Much of it is sourced from corn, so that rise in demand further increases the price of corn. The bill also gives $200 million to increase ethanol infrastructure and equipment. It will still need to pass the Senate. Now on to some climate fails. International climate talks have gone on for 2 weeks in Bonn, Germany, and now have ended in nothing. The goal was to come up with a method and monetary amount that wealthy countries would give to emerging economies to help pay for the growing cost of losses and damages brought on by extreme weather events. Developing countries have contributed the least to historic emissions and are already experiencing the worst climate change impacts. The study we touched on Friday before last determines that climate change has already knocked off a fifth of emerging economies' GDPs. But the US and the EU couldn't come up with an agreement because they didn't want to pay the money. Wealthy countries promised in 2009 to start paying developing countries $100 billion a year by 2020 to help them transition to clean energy. Now the promise has been pushed off until 2023.
It's 120 in Kuwait right now? Sheesh. I wish all oil execs and other company CEOs and some politicians were forced to live in the most affected areas with all their assets confiscated. Yikes. That's the thing. It seems like the top solution in the US is to just move if you have the resources. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a meme, but if you can, you'll be, well, I suspect eventually forced. Oh, man. There's a Texas hearing on Uvalde school shooting about to happen. No countries are taking Americans unless you have special skills or lots of money. Hey, Skiddadeer, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. Eventually, no one can escape. True. Do you know where that's happening, Astro?
The discussion of losses and damages payments is a newer one, and it will probably be discussed again in November at COP27. Vietnam has allegedly arrested one of its most prominent environmentalists for speaking out about the country's coal use. In 2016, the Vietnamese government followed Nguyen Thi Quan's direction to reduce coal-fired power. She said by 300,000 megawatts. The government compromised by planning to reduce by 200,000 megawatts. Quan received the first Goldman Environmental Prize for her work. But 6 years later, the country is still the 9th largest coal user in the world. Quan's still speaking out against the country's coal use. And then last week, she was arrested for tax evasion, which her colleagues say is a trumped-up charge. In January, 3 other environmentalists were arrested who spoke out against the country's coal use. Legal experts in Vietnam and people from the Goldman Environmental Foundation say these arrests show a worrying trend by the government.
Yeah,
Quan
no
has
kidding.
been a significant player in moving the country towards clean energy. During COP26, the latest big UN climate conference, Vietnam pledged to phase out coal by 2040. Quan was open about her concern that Vietnam won't hit that target, and now she's in jail.
Damn. That's not good. That's very, very much not good. Yeah. Or you can apply for political asylum like we did. Yeah, I have it must be an open stream agenda. It must be an open stream as Agenda Free TV is screening it. Agenda Free TV like through Twitch. I've got one article lined up on that, but maybe we can just kind of tune in and see what's going on. Maybe, if we have the chance. I've got dual citizenship thanks to my mother. But, you know. Twitch.tv/. Alright.
Over in the US, a US flood program by the Federal Emergency Management Agency might be breaking civil rights laws, according to an E&E News investigation. The flood program elevated houses to improve their resiliency to flooding, but the reporters found that program money disproportionately went to wealthy and white people. This violates the 1988 Stafford Act, which requires emergency funding to be given out equitably. Let's finish off today with a chemical news headline. The New England Journal of Medicine announced it's expanding its coverage of the intersection of climate issues and public health, starting with fossil fuel-driven health concerns. The inaugural article focuses on how children, particularly in lower-income families and from minority backgrounds, are impacted by extreme weather events, heat stress, and worsening air and water quality. And that was your climate news for Monday, June 20th. If you like the work I do,
Waste. Alright. Folks, we need to get those sub numbers up, alright? They're at 60 subs right now. We need to get those sub numbers up. Folks, we do need to make a couple of announcements. Folks, next month, well, it's already the 21st. I'm acting like July is so far away. In a couple of weeks, actually, let me see here. In 2 weeks exactly, on the dot, on the nose. 2 weeks exactly from today. Not the next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. Mayhem Hippie gifting a tier 1 sub to Wretched Deal. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Next, in 2 weeks, I'll make another announcement at the end of this week, and at the beginning of next week, and at the end of next week. And I will make another announcement in the Discord at some point to remind people that on July 5th, that's exactly 2 weeks from now, we're moving to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I believe everything else is going to stay the same Monday through Thursday, I believe. I'm still trying to... Yeah, I think it's probably better if we just leave it the way it is, Monday through Thursday. The only difference is that because of my job, the time has basically had to shift from mornings to now evening at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So the stream will continue... Yes, Eastern Time. So the stream will continue as normal. Everything is going to be the same in terms of like the content-wise. But the time is now 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'll probably make a Twitter, and then at the end of this week, I'll say it again. Next week, I'll say it again, and I'll post a comment on the Discord as well, and the channel updates. That's why you guys should join the Discord, so you guys get any special updates that happen. Eastern Time, yes. So that's one announcement. Because my job is now shifting to 8 to 5. Because my job is shifting 8 to 5, I can't do it in the mornings like I used to. I personally like the fact that I can do things here in the morning. But, so it is. That will be 22 at night for me. I may do what we were talking about in Saturday Catterday, where I will just play reruns in the mornings. Wait, I missed it. What's happening? I was sending a work email. So I'm shifting, not by choice, but I am shifting the schedule to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, because, well, my job is now moving towards an 8 to 5 schedule, so I don't have the mornings necessarily like I did. So I have to shift it to 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to make another announcement at the end of this week. And at the beginning and end of next week. And I will be posting an announcement on the Discord. So either way, and I'll do a Twitter. So either way, you're gonna know Sad face. I will try and catch the streams at that time. I'm usually cooking dinner about that time. Cool. I'll give you a secret. Just pop in some headphones or pop in a speaker. You'll be good. ADT while you cook. How about that? I work 2 to 10, so it'll be impossible for me at least. If anything, I can lurk on my phone. Exactly. So the solution is going to be as follows. Yes, the live stream will be on 5 p.m. Eastern, but reruns can be done in the morning so that you don't miss a thing the following morning. Easy peasy. So far, I think that's what's going to happen. Switching while cooking is allowed. True. Also, now that the bot has just reminded me, we do have to talk about this month's sponsor. I haven't done that in a while. Factor, exclamation point Factor, is the sponsor for this month. Get fresh, ready-made meals delivered to your doorstep while you sign up with Factor's chef-created meals, fresh, never frozen, and designed by dietitians to ensure every meal is packed with premium, science-based nutritional quality. No more meal prep, no more dishes, no more unhealthy fast food. Factor offers the most convenient way to eat well while eating right. They do offer vegan and vegetarian options. Factor's menus are updated weekly and include 27 plus meals and 34 plus add-on options. Choose your favorite meals or lettuce crafted for you based on your taste preference and meal history. If you use the code FACTOR1962, you get $120 off. Check it out, exclamation point Factor, and you get to support the channel. Look at that. 2 for 1. All right, let's get back into it, folks. Send that to me in whispers, Bipedal. All right. North Carolina considers new laws to de-weaponize medical debt and protect patients. When Aaron Williams faced a $3,500 surgery bill, the hospital offered to let her pay in 300 monthly installments. It was too much, said William Rivas, who lives in Greensboro, about an hour west of the state capital. Her hours as a personal assistant had been cut, and she and her husband were behind on bills, even requesting a forbearance on their mortgage. In Charlotte, Patrick Oliver was stunned to receive a nearly $30,000 bill after a trip to the emergency room for numbness and burning on his hand and feet. When Oliver, 66, and his wife, Mary, couldn't pay, the hospital sued them. Nice. Very good system. Very, very functional. The couple feared they'd lose their home. In Asheville, Emily's Argonada's $25.72 medical bill was sent to collections. She had said she had paid that bill, but the hospital hasn't recorded it. It took Argonada 8 months, a slew of calls and emails, and a full day at the billing office to resolve the debt. Jesus. Now they're waiting to see whether North Carolina's lawmakers will make good on a bill that says that its sponsors say will de-weaponize medical debt. Imagine. Imagine. Thanks for the shout out, no problem. More motivation to quit your day job. True. Oh, hey, whoa.
Last weekend, in addition, at the Texas.
The problem is driving about 100 million people in the US. 41% of adults have some form of healthcare debt, according to KFF poll conducted for a new KHN NPR investigation. The problem is driving millions of people into bankruptcy, depleting savings and retirement accounts, and leaving black marks on credit scores that make finding housing or employment difficult. Imagine that being a concept and people thinking that this is totally normal. Imagine thinking that this is totally normal. But federal protections remain weak, and the widespread burden has spurred efforts by at least a dozen state legislators in recent years to better protect patients. California, Maine, and Maryland have enacted measures that compel hospitals to expand financial aid, crack down on debt collectors, and curb extreme practices such as placing liens on patients' homes. Jesus Christ. Many of these states have expanded Medicaid coverage through the Affordable Care Act, providing health insurance to millions of previously uninsured people. But some states with the highest level of medical debt, such as Texas, nice, South Carolina, and Tennessee, have few protections. Yep. This is what happens when Republicans win elections. This is what happens when you elect people with bootstraps mentality. Low-income Black and Indigenous people in these southern states are among the hardest hit, but even in more liberal states such as California, the healthcare and debt collection industries have foiled more ambitious reform efforts. The debt problem in North Carolina is among the most acute in the nation, according to credit bureau data analyzed by the nonprofit Urban Institute. Only 5 states have a higher share of residents with medical debt on their credit reports. North Carolina lawmakers are debating 2 measures to tackle the state's debt problem. One to expand Medicaid, a government insurance program for low-income people, and another is to strengthen financial protections for patients. If both pass, policy experts say North Carolina could emerge as a national leader in protecting residents against medical debt and aggressive collection practices. I mean, yeah, that's good. Just one question. Why are we just even allowing this to begin with? I don't know. Medical debt can drive people into poverty. Yeah, so maybe we should, I don't know, eliminate it and prevent people and their families from getting out of poverty, said Mark Rukavina, a program director with the nonprofit health advocacy group Community Catalyst. These bills could provide significant protection against that. Currently, North Carolina ranks 28th on the national scorecard of medical debt policies developed by the Innovation for Justice Lab at the University of Arizona and University of Utah. If North Carolina's legislature passes both of these bills, the state would jump to second, said Gabriel Elizondo Craig, a lead investigator on the scorecard project. That would put it ahead of California and just below Maryland, which, according to the scorecard, is the only state that prohibits hospitals from selling medical debt to other companies. Yikes. North Carolina Senate passed a bill that includes Medicaid expansion after Republicans who had previously opposed the move threw their support behind it. Senate leader Phil Berger said in a news conference that an increase in federal funds to encourage states to expand the program, along with recent overhaul of the state's Medicaid program to make it more efficient, ensured that doing so would no longer hurt the state's budget. Although the bill faces an uphill battle in the House, it could provide insurance coverage to more than 500,000 people. Wow. Sponsored, just like the news, brought to you. NPR? Okay. Medicaid expansion would go beyond hospital costs, said Jennifer Bosco, an attorney at the National Consumer Law Center, who has co-authored a model state law on medical debt. It would touch all healthcare costs and pharmacy costs, which really does have the potential to reduce or eliminate a lot of medical debt for the lowest income people. The second piece of legislation, known as the Medical Debt De-Weaponization Act, would require hospitals to offer financial assistance to patients based on their income and limit the way large medical facilities and debt collectors can pursue unpaid bills. It features a host of provisions championed by consumer advocates, including the following. Require hospitals to provide free care to patients whose household income is at or below 200% of... What? What? Of what? Require hospitals to offer payment plans that span at least 2 years with installments that don't exceed 5% of their monthly income. That's good. Cap the annual out-of-pocket expense for most patients at $2,300. Eesh. Cap the annual out-of-pocket cap the maximum interest rate of medical debt at 5%. Why? Why is there even interest on that to begin with? Shield family members from medical or nursing home debt incurred by a spouse or parent. That's good. Delay reporting of unpaid medical debt to credit bureaus until 1 year after a patient is billed. Prohibit home foreclosures related to medical debt. Hey, Memo, how's it going? Isn't it nice that it's quite possible that in North Carolina you won't lose your house? You won't get foreclosed because, I don't know, a medical emergency? Isn't that nice? How generous? How generous? Require attorney generals to enforce the law and giving patients the ability to sue healthcare facilities for violations. At least a dozen states have passed laws with similar provisions in recent years, said Quinn Wynn, I guess, a senior policy analyst at Community at Catalyst. As of 2021, 10 states, including California, Illinois, and Maine, require hospitals to provide free or discounted care to patients who meet certain income threshold. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting read. Debtor's prison is just now called medical debt. True. In New Mexico, hospitals are require hospitals to provide free or discounted care to patients who meet certain income thresholds. 13 states and Washington, D.C. limit various debt collection practices. In New Mexico, hospitals are prohibited from suing patients with incomes below 200% of the federal poverty level. What? Okay. 200% below the federal poverty level, placing liens on their property or garnishing wages. I mean, like, the idea that something could happen to you, like, through no fault of your own, like a medical emergency, and the idea that that could potentially put your wages and your home in jeopardy is just unbelievably wild to me. In Nevada, debt collector agencies are required to provide written notice to patients at least 60 days before any collection action is taken. Other state policies have focused on price transparency or limiting the impact of debt on people's credit scores and livelihoods. The idea that we have a credit system like this is just wild. Hey, come back. Earlier this year, the three big credit reporting agencies announced that they will remove medical debt of less than $500 and those who have been repaid from consumer credit reports. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. The Biden administration advised federal lenders to no longer consider medical debt when evaluating loan applications. Together, these policies can decrease the number of people driven into poverty by medical bills or keep their generation after generation because of medical debt, Wynn said. North Carolina's medical debt legislation was spurred by multiple reports from the Treasurer's Office, which found that hospitals sent nearly $150 million in bills to patients who should have qualified for free or discounted care under hospitals' policies. Yikes. That's the problem with making things for profit. That's the problem with allowing things to be for profit. I do not know about anybody here, but the only thing on my credit report is medical debt and college debt. That's what's hindering my credit. Yeesh. I would take a gander that it's not, that you wouldn't be the only one. People in North Carolina are not able to see themselves out of poverty, not because of the war in Ukraine or inflation. It's because of medical debt. Representative Ed Goodwin, a Republican who sponsored the bill and represents 2 North Carolina counties among the highest share of residents with medical debt, said he believes there's a bipartisan support to tackle the issue. Goodwin suggested that perhaps this bill would be easier to sell than Medicaid expansion, which he has said has been discussed for years and not a whole lot has happened. But that doesn't mean it'll be smooth sailing. at a committee hearing, of course. Of course. Again, this is what happens when Republicans win elections. Republican State Representative John Suska said a number of things greatly disturb him. He questions whether a credit score could substantially harm someone's upward mobility. Imagine having this out of touch perception of how things work. He questions whether a credit score could substantially harm someone's upward mobility. This is just divorced from reality. If you have a bad credit score because there's something that happened to you that you have no control over, like a medical thing, that is financial doom. If you don't have a good credit score, that is financial doom. I don't know, Heat. I don't know what's real anymore. I noted that federal laws already require nonprofit hospitals to provide financial assistance and quote, I would not want to see any hospital turned into social services. That's right. Because God forbid you have a medical emergency and you don't have money. God forbid you have a medical emergency and don't have money. Because this Republican, and I suspect that a lot of them have that similar feeling, is that, yeah, sure, sorry, I wouldn't want to see any hospital turned into a social service. I had to fight with our insurance a few weeks ago. My son slipped and fell on some ice at school and bashed his face up pretty bad. The insurance did not want to cover the ER visit. Yeah. They know what the solution is, but they refuse to do it. Right, because it's just such a out-of-touch statement to make. I mean, similar laws in other states have faced opposition from powerful hospital associations, and groups representing debt collectors often criticize these type of protections. Yeah, they can go after themselves. Like, honestly, this is a problem with having healthcare as a for-profit system. It's just not good. The North Carolina Healthcare Association, which represents hospitals in the state, said it has not taken an official position yet, but spokesperson Cynthia Charles says existing federal and state laws address many of the issues related to fair billing and collectors. Sure. Hospitals do more than any other part of the healthcare field to assist vulnerable patients. They try to make it easy for patients to learn about financial assistance through counselors, call centers, virtual chat tools, and more. That's the problem, though. Why is this even a thing? Why are you putting the onus on somebody who's just had a medical issue to navigate this? Support Medicare for All will fix that. I think having just a general universal healthcare system would be monumentally more effective. Having a universal healthcare system would be more effective. They want a bunch of paperwork completed, and they threatened to sue our family if the paperwork was not completed for the full amount of the medical bill. This was state insurance, Medicaid. Sheesh. North Carolina Collectors Association declined to comment. For people with onerous medical bills, the legislation can't come fast enough and can't go far enough. MLA Aragonot, who was sent for collections over that erroneous $26 bill, said that law should also require hospitals to provide an itemized bill to every patient without waiting for them to request it. Patrick and Mary Oliver, who were sued by hospitals, said the health system needs to be clear about the cost of service upfront and justify those costs. Yeah, the problem is you can't really do that, right? I mean, like, you need health care. That's the justification, right? Medicare for all could save billions a year for the public by purchasing prescription drugs at super low prices, even lower than what Mark Cuban's company is doing. Yep. Right, no one's going to be deal searching when you need immediate care. Correct. It's that inelastic demand that creates obvious like market failures and really just cracks open the idea that something like healthcare should be a for-profit system. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work because it doesn't prioritize the healthcare aspect of it. Erin Williams-Rivitz, who was offered the $300 monthly payment plan for her surgery bill, said lawmakers should speak more with normal people when revising the legislation because we're the ones who are affected. The medical bill debt is currently under review by the House Banking Committee, where it's likely to be revised. To pass into this session, the bill has just 2 weeks left to make it through the North Carolina House and Senate. So we will see if anything materializes, but the idea is we've got to deal with this. And I think that the best way to deal with it is just to continue to hammer down the argument that just make a universal healthcare system. That's it. Just all this energy and debate and resources to try to like do things like this should just be put forth to say, hey, why don't we just have a national, like, universal kind of healthcare system? Trying to make medical debt a little easier instead of questioning why the medical debt is a thing at all. Exactly. That's my argument. Exactly. Right at this point. Like, yeah, like, listen, you can't blame us, the hospitals. We are making it easy for people to learn about financial... Like, what? No. Why is this a thing? Why is this even a thing to begin with? Why is the onus on the patient?
That you could imagine these women and their husbands walk to their cars screaming in tears and crying and sounds that were not normal tears nor normal crying. This is the reason I wanted to come to you today, Chairman, was not to rub anything in anybody's face or tell us to vote a certain way, but was to tell you that you don't want to live 14 days straight in a community talking to those families and hugging them finally, even though that first day I just could not. I felt like such a coward. I didn't have the power in me to deal with that and those emotions for these people. So I stayed back talking to law enforcement. Through the last 4 weeks, I've built the strength to become their friend.
What?
And their consoler and someone who says, we're not going to leave there for you. You said one thing, Chairman. You said those systems failed them, and you're right. We failed them. You have another function today, Chairman, which I'm very glad that you suggested we're going to cover, which is the law enforcement response. And I was heartened to hear the Lieutenant Governor's statement last night on social media, where he said that we were going to get to the bottom of this in an open process because we live in a democracy. In a democracy, things need to be transparent. So I commend you for
I
that.
agree with that, but
The laws and the things that we need to change. To your point, Senator Perry, we have 8,000 school campuses. 8,000. We've got to do more than $100 million in school hardening.
school hardening. What
We've
does
got
that
to find
mean?
the will and the money to do that. We have a mental health crisis in this country, in this state, and we've got to find real money to attach to it. And we do have to find, Senator West, common sense gun solutions. When 65% of the Republicans in my community tell me that we need to raise an age limit, I can tell you that an 18-year-old shouldn't be able to go into a store like he's going into 7-Eleven to buy a Slurpee. And that's what happened here. And so, Mr. Chairman, I will not keep you. You have important work to do. I told you I would respect this body entirely. And I thank you for allowing me to ask questions if they're not covered. And I assure you that I will be respectful.
Yeah, unfortunately, especially in Texas, Republicans have shown time and time again that democracy is just not a thing for them. They're not interested in that. I mean, their literal party platform tells you that they're not interested in democracy. They're interested in imposing their will. Talking to cops will help. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for indulging me, and thank you, members. I listened carefully to what each of you had to say, and there were some really wise statements that were made. And I think that's what we have to be, is very wise in what we're doing. Senator Perry, I think your comment of where we are with this, the next perpetrator is already out there, and it's what do we do to minimize what's going to happen, because we got to keep in mind what we can affect with law and what we can't affect. And we don't want to fool ourselves by thinking we just, as Senator Perry said, check the box by passing a law that we then think is going to do something. I think we have to make a serious, very serious look at the root cause of where we are and recognize there are things we can't legislate. We cannot legislate morality. We can't legislate integrity. We can't legislate responsibility. We just can't legislate for people to do what's right. And to say we pass a law would stop a crime. You got cities like Chicago that have the strongest possible gun laws. I don't think there's a gun law that doesn't exist in Chicago.
That's... Okay, we're getting into nonsense territory. By that logic, listen, folks, we shouldn't have any freaking laws at all. You know what? We can't legislate morality. Why have murder laws at all? If we can't... The crime is going to happen anyways. There's nothing we can do about it.
We need to look at getting to the root cause of what we've had in these young people.
Okay, vague generalities of nothing.
The incredibly rapid increase in juvenile delinquency, anger, ADA, ADH, dysphoria, general behavior, anger. Look at I've read one report on the background of this young man that basically had been cast aside by society. We look at what's being taught to our young folks that's counter to
the natural order of things.
Right.
Yeah, I can hear those dog whistles like 10,000 miles away. No, thank you. Joseph Kennedy said the other day that Dems are brainwashing people with gas station sushi. I don't know. Not true. There are gaps, if not downright canyons, of missing gun laws. Yeah, no, this guy is not worth listening to. This is not a good faith assessment. Anyways, when that guy's done talking, maybe we can tune back in. What's going on over here?
This Republican Party convention this past weekend, in addition, of course, to just insulting Dan Crenshaw up and down, They also voted on a referendum to include in their party's 2023 platform, which of course would then make the party go to the state legislature and vote on this. They voted on a referendum to allow the state of Texas to secede from the United States and become its own sovereign country. Now, as of right now, as of me sitting here recording this, we do not know how those votes went.
No,
We do not know if it passed. We do not know if it failed.
it's a meme. They do this every time. They do this every time they get like ass mad about something.
But honestly, if you ask me, that's actually irrelevant. The fact that that was even a thing that got past enough people to say, you know what, let's put it on the ballot. Let's see what happens, right?
This has been done multiple times. Leftist thought is gas station sushi. True.
Let's just test the waters of secession.
They've done it a bunch of times.
That's what the party is doing. Now, we have had plenty of nut jobs over the years call for Texas to secede from the
Yes.
United States, right? That is not new, and unfortunately it's not as uncommon as it should be. But for the state party to actually take it seriously enough to put it as a potential thing to be voted on for their platform, like at least some of them thought, you know what, this is a good enough idea. And you know what? First of all, I'd love to see you try it. I absolutely would love to see you try it. First and foremost, you can't. You know, laws passed after the Civil War, Supreme Court rulings after the Civil War.
Alio with the 10 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hey, Echo Resto Dragon. How's it going? Howdy, howdy. Texas needs North's tax money. Yeah,
You can't actually do that.
like save the legal arguments aside. Taking the legal arguments aside, because I know that they technically can't, because there's a lot of legalese behind it, to prevent like it being easy for someone, for a state to secede for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, if they want to get cut off from all the federal goodies, so be it. I mean, see how well that worked out for them.
So, there's that. But more importantly, you couldn't survive as a country. And that's what these dumbasses don't understand. Texas is not a self-sustaining state. And the few areas where you've tried to be self-sustaining, like
Have
cutting
failed.
yourself off from the rest of the country, like your energy grid, that's not going so well, is it?
Because they allowed private corporations to handle that.
Turns out you're in actually pretty crappy state. No offense to the people who live in Texas, right? That's not your fault. Unless you voted for the people that keep doing this. But hey, the state is run by a bunch of idiots.
True.
I mean, seriously, some of the dumbest people running a state we have seen in modern history. And y'all wouldn't survive as a state, as an independent country, if you left the United States. And that's why, honestly, I would love to see you try. Where are you going to get all your stuff?
I almost, like I said, I almost want to see that play out. Really. I almost want to see that play out. And then, yeah, Texas Trump is your president. Let Trump run it. There you go. How about that? You can secede and you can let Trump rule that wasteland. If Texas attempts to secede, it could start a new civil war. I don't know about that. I honestly think that this is all just what is it? Chess beating, beating the war drums. But I think this is more bark than bite, to be quite honest. I think this is more bark than bite. I don't think they actually can. This is nothing new.
Right? I mean, what's going to be your major trade good other than oil in a world that understands how bad it is for us to continue our reliance on oil?
I I disagree. I think we're continuing business as usual. Yeah, I don't think, no. I think he's wrong here.
Right? All these gas price problems, all the pollution problems. The world is trying to move past this, and the gas
Not really.
price, crisis is actually helping people to realize we need to move past it. So if that's going to be your only chief export, you're not going to make it as a country. Secondly, what are you going to do when you get hit with another natural disaster?
When? That's right. They can't, not legally. Yeah, I get it. I that's what I'm saying. I don't think that this is gonna happen. I don't think that it's all bark, no bite, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, this has happened multiple times, and I don't think that's, I don't think that they're actually gonna do it. He brings up a good point here. When the next hurricane hits in the Gulf, they're not going to have, like, it's hypothetically, just entertaining the idea. Where are they going to get the the emergency response? Where are they going to get the federal emergency responses?
I mean, you just had a massive heat wave. You had areas of the country that literally didn't have water when you had triple-digit temperatures. You know, the freak winter storms that knocked power out. Where did all the aid for that come from? It came from the federal government. When you get hurricanes, which happens pretty much every year almost,
Yeah.
you're not going to have FEMA to come bail you out. You're not going to have your neighboring states sending their convoys from the power companies to reinstall your power lines. Which I don't know if anybody's ever lived down here in the South, through hurricane season. That is what happens, All of us down here along the Gulf Coast, our power companies do band together. If there's a storm in Alabama, you get trucks from Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, all coming in
Yeah, that's
to
true.
rebuild the power lines, get everybody connected, get all that up there. And we can do that, of course, because we're not having to go into a sovereign country and deal with all of that. If Texas secedes, well, you lose all of that. And of course, all of that is on top of the fact that it's illegal for you to even try it. But hey, it's Texas, right? These are Republicans we're dealing with. They're not the brightest bunch. So I guess we just have to wait and see if they're even going to try this. Or
Not only that, like, it's clear that norms, democratic norms and laws and all that doesn't really matter to them. Whatever. Without the help of the rest of us being dragged down, I will help funnel people out and smuggle people into the actual US. They're not sending their best.
Or if it was just a pipe dream from some of the extremists that somehow made their way into leadership positions in that state party.
They're not extremists. That is the mainstream Republican ideology. Like, no, that's not a couple of them. That is the Republican Party.
Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel?
Funny. Well, in that case, just don't send FEMA. Yeah, I mean, we can't really have that option, right? Like, we can't do that. Yeah.
Eight months prior to the attack, he was moving towards on what they would call a pathway to violence. He'd
You
asked
done yet?
a family member to purchase
It's
him a
2
weapon.
a.m. Why
He
are you still
refused. He was
scrolling through
17 years old
videos?
at the time.
You're not
After he
paying
dropped
me
out of high school
overtime
on
here.
October 28th.
If you really want to see something new, why not change those shades that have
What
been
the
broken
heck?
for the past 2 years?
What?
Let's tap the Thumbtack app, and in
What?
a matter of seconds, we'll find a pro to install new shades.
What?
Okay.
With Thumbtack,
What? I did not press any of these buttons. Okay. Echo Wrestler Dragon. I remember this one time in like September 10th when gas went up. They were pushing that Prius crap. Now there's this huge electric push and gas is absurdly priced. So is this so we'll buy electric? No. Only June, and they're talking about rolling blackouts in Texas. Heck, electricity has been off and on neighborhoods since last week. I don't know if electric is the answer. Anyways, I'm just trying to figure out how to travel with these absurd prices. It's making me sad. Completely backwards way of thinking. I think the opposite needs to be considered. If you're complaining about gas prices, maybe we shouldn't be relying on gas?
Messaging, make it very careful, messaging online on these social media platforms, various different ones, 10 more days. Someone responded. What can you do, shoot up a school? No, you'll see. Those types of things are being, those words are out there, but yet not reported 10 days before. And of course, very disturbingly, many messages that occurred on the day of the attack on May 24th. And, to a number of different friends, some tell them delete your messages along those lines. You'll see what's going to happen. And he was in communication many times in messaging and earlier FaceTime with a 15-year-old juvenile, and it was in Germany at the time, and told her, and I quote, I'm going to shoot my grandma in the head. And he later, I just shot my grandma in the head, and I'm going to go shoot up an elementary school. That was at 11:21 when that happened, 11:21. And with your permission, Chairman, I'd like to go to the timeline. And these events are taken from audio, video, body camera, 911 tapes. And so it's not subject to interpretation. It's simply subject to transcription. And you have a copy of the timeline in front of you. And I'll begin on page 1. And I'll try to quickly go through them. 11:28, and I'm going to round off the times. I'm not going to say the seconds, but I'll do it in order. The suspect crashes his vehicle into a ditch. Okay, this was at the intersection of Goss and Gerardine, in front of the school and in front of a funeral home. The subject didn't have a driver's license. The subject couldn't drive. And when he did drive, he was described as having problems with taking a turn. So people wonder, why, crashing like he did when he also attempted to turn, almost left, but then crashes into a ditch, a concrete ditch, and right in front of the school. If he's really going to the school to do something, what's his destination? Well, his destination was Robb Elementary School. There's no question about it. He did crash. Once he crashed, 2 males from the funeral home went out to see how he was. And at that point, that was 11:29. We heard a teacher. This teacher was inside the school, by the way. The teacher, was observant enough inside the school. She calls 911 and reports a man with a gun. That was 11:29. 11:31, the suspect began shooting the suspect had shot at, the individuals that came from the funeral home. Now he left 3 rounds. He shot 3 times at him. Missed him. One of the individuals got up, and they continued on, and of course reported that later. 11:31, the suspect begins shooting at the school. And there's classrooms on the West Building. And if we have the diagram on my left here, you can see this right here. So you can see the Diaz Street location, and you can see the west entrance. And if your permission, if I can stand up, Chairman, to be able to point that out. Okay, this is Diaz Street. Diaz Street's up here, 0.29 miles around. This is Goss Street. This is Gerardine Street. This is the funeral home I talked about. This is where he crashed, right here. The crash location. He was trying to make the turn here and crashed. It was his grandmother's pickup truck that he crashed in. He climbed out on the passenger side and took with him one rifle. He took with him his backpack at that point. That's when he shot at, when I described the time he shot at those two individuals, ran back to the funeral home. Then he situates himself, he moves to a fence. The fence is approximately 4 feet, throws the bag over, jumps over the fence, and proceeds in this direction. And the red on your chart is the direction that the subject is moving. As he moves into this area, once he's in this, as he moves along this area, he gets into this area right here. He begins shooting, okay? As he's been shooting into the classrooms is what he's doing. He's initially right here, and on the timeline, if I go back up to the timeline, and note that he's 3 Uvalde PD officers, okay? Let me, yeah, higher up here. Okay, multiple shots. In fact, he shot 27 times as he proceeded, as he walked along here. He dropped the backpack here for no apparent reason. He was situated right here among cars. There was cars at the time. And as he walked, he shot into these classrooms. There's 2 classrooms. There's actually 4, but 2 he shot into. There's 4 windows, 2 windows on each. He was firing into those classrooms. He proceeded to the west building, or the west entrance of the building. What we're calling the west, we're calling this east, and this is the south entrance. He proceeded in there. He opened the door. It was open. It was unlocked. I know there were reports before about a teacher putting a rock in it. That's a practice around the school, practice in many schools. Yes, that did happen, but that same teacher also removed the rock. It was the same teacher that called 911 and reported a man with a gun outside the school and the crash. So he also called the alarm, and the school goes into a lockdown, active shooter. And they get the kids, and I won't go through the protocol.
ERCOT still hasn't fixed their grid from what went down in the winter. Yeah, it's a private company. I just saw this morning. 11 officers, including Uvalde School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo, were inside Robb Elementary within 3 minutes of the gunman entering on May 24th. A law enforcement source told the investigation. CNN a law enforcement source close to the investigation told CNN. Yeah, we'll look at that in a second. Echo Resto Dragon. So what the F were they doing for the other hour? Just catching Pokemon? Assaulting parents.
Then he's in the north-south hallway. He turns left. Then he approaches, and you can't tell from the video. The challenge with the school video is it's a fisheye video located at this location. A little different than the video that we had at Santa Fe. So the view is very distorted. You can't see all the way to here, and you certainly can't see very far over here in the first iteration. The second iteration, we got a little bit better when it was sent back to Quantico to be enhanced or enhanced the second time. You can see much of what's going on. It provided a much clearer way for us to document exactly what happened in that hallway over that 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds. The subject lines up here. What you can't see, it's inset in here. What you can't see is which classroom he's shooting into exactly. But he's shooting at either 111 or 112 initially. Overall, there was 24 rounds that were left, recovered out here, 27 in the hallway. Now, some of those rounds could have been, when we're evacuating, first responders are evacuating, trying to save lives, could have drugged some of those rounds out there. But for right now, it appears when we finish with the trajectory analysis, we'll be able to tell you how many exactly were fired by the subject into that room and how many were fired out by the subject. But for right now, it appeared we had 27 rounds recovered in the hallway. The only shooting was not in this direction, it was in this direction here. He walked up to the door, he opened the door and walked in. Okay, then we heard shooting. As the timeline suggests, and through audio enhancement, we can hear how many shots were fired. The initial barrage of firing occurred within 100 rounds, occurred within the next couple of minutes.
Jesus Christ.
So you can go up on the timeline here. Again, shooting into classrooms 111, 112. He enters to 11:33. So we're talking about 32 seconds after he enters, because he entered West Building at 11:33. So the crash is at 11:28, enters the building at 11:33, or 11:33 exactly, and 11:33.
Okay, I got alert. Today's a stupid busy day and I'm the only employee. Well, thank you so much for the biddies, ma'am hippie. That's not only gifted subs, but 303 biddies.
Begin shooting. If you go over your timeline, look at, you'll see more than 100 rounds were fired initially. Another 11 rounds were fired at 11:37. Okay, and injuring 2 officers were approaching. That the rooms, the walls inside the interior are sheetrock, and bullets go through. The 2 were grazed at that point, retreated. I can tell you at 11:36, as we mentioned before, you had 3 Uvalde PD officers into the west door. 11:35, 11:36, 2, and 2 Uvalde PD officers. So we had 4 officers, 7 officers right now in the building at 11:36. So that's pretty quick time, considering all the different factors in that regard. There was never a school resource officer on the scene. A school resource officer did respond, and when he responded to the location.
Howdy, howdy, Death Metal. I hope the families can sue the heck out of those police officers. True.
So he's off campus, he's in his vehicle, he responds rapidly. As he does, he sees what he thinks when he drives in, he sees what he thinks is the subject back here. It wasn't the subject, it was a teacher. He drives directly towards that subject, the teacher, and says, "I'm out with the subject." So it had already been reported on the radio, man with a gun, okay, at the school.
I love how the other chat is
After a
talking about
crash,
the doors.
He thinks he's got the subject. He drives quickly. He drove, over 50 miles an hour into it, going towards the subject. And unfortunately, that wasn't the subject. The subject was right here. He passed the subject as he went. So that's why some of the confusion early on. Now, the doctrine for active shooters is clear. I mentioned it before. And it's 2 sets of it. Hey, you stop the killing, you stop the dying. The other part of that doctrine is you isolate, you distract, and you neutralize. Everyone's taught this. You require it in TCOL training. We practice it. We preached it. This is the doctrine, and it recognizes that you run to the sound of gunfire. When you get to gunfire, you don't stop. Okay, when you get there, you run into gunfire. Okay, and it's so important to do so. And I'll tell you what, and I've said it before, and I hope I've underscored it. There's no doubt in my mind that those officers would have gone. Any one of them would have sacrificed their lives for those children. Any one of them. If they knew there was kids in that room and teachers in that room, I have great confidence in officers. Those police officers, those local officers would have done what was right.
Wrong.
11:40, we have chief. 11:40, we have chief. First report: officers contained in the office. Contained is not a word for active shooter. Contained is a barricaded subject. Contained is a situation where you may have a hostage. You need a SWAT team. Okay, you have time. The C's,
you have time.
Then you communicate with the
Bro,
subject,
this wasn't a
you
hostage situation.
Immediate action plan. That's not what this was. This was never anything more than an active shooter situation.
Yes.
But at some point, he's contained in the office. Then we have Chief Ariano calls Uvalde PD. It has been reported he did not have a radio with him. He did not. That's actually true. That was correct report. And this is the conversation that he had, and you can read it yourself in your notes. All this for the purposes of this. Chief Ariano. Hey, it's Ariano. Can you hear me? I'd like to tell you where we're at. It's an emergency right now. I'm inside the building. But this man has an AR-15. He shot a whole bunch of times. We're inside the building. He's in a one room. I need a lot of firepower, so I need this building surrounded with as many AR-15s as possible. Can you hear me? The dispatcher responded. You can be heard talking in the background and asking what room number. Chief, is the teacher with him?
This is ridiculous.
In the room as he's in? Can you hear him? Ma'am? Dispatcher, I'm right here. Chief, ma'am, is the teacher with him in his classroom? Dispatcher, she's in another classroom. She's in room 102. Another person possible shot across from her. wasn't 102, it was 112. Is the accurate number. Chief Ariando, okay, we have him in the room. He's got an AR-15. He's shot a lot. He's in the room. He hasn't come out yet. We're surrounded, but I don't have a radio with me. Please let all units know he's going to be in a room. He's in room 111 or 112, and we're in here. I'm in the hallway. Sergeant, another sergeant are here. We need this place surrounded, and if you have SWAT, I need them to set up south side of the building, which is the nearest to the location to the funeral home. Dispatcher confirms SWAT location. Chief Ariando, yes. They need to be outside the building prepared because we don't have enough firepower. Right now it's all pistols and he has an AR-15. You can get the SWAT team set up by the funeral home, okay? And we need, yes, I need more firepower in here because we have pistols and this guy's got a rifle. So I don't have a radio. If somebody can come in, the dispatcher, Chief Ariando, but I am gonna drop it when he comes out of the door, all right? So I need you to bring a radio for me and give me my radio. For me, I need to get one rifle. Hold on, I'm trying to set him up, or set him. I'm going to set him up right now, okay?
Did they need
Do me a
rocket
favor.
launchers?
Call me when SWAT is set up. I'm gonna have you a vibrate, though. Call me twice if you have to. It's okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, so it looks like these guys initially... There's a lot of contradictions here. Multiple officers were already inside with rifles and at least one ballistic shield at 11:52. That was maybe about 19 minutes. We'll be generous and say about 20 minutes since 11:30, which was when the incident started, right? Investigators believe that this is significant because it indicates they had more than enough firepower and protection to enter the classroom before they did. Officers were growing impatient far sooner. If there's kids in there, we need to go in there. Bro, do you not hear the gunshots and the screaming? Yeah, they needed a drone strike. That's what it was. On Monday, KVUE and its partners at the Austin American Statesman exclusively obtained surveillance footage from inside Robb Elementary on the day of the May 24 shooting. The footage shows that multiple officers were inside the buildings, and at least one ballistic shield, 19 minutes after the gunman arrived. They didn't enter the classroom for nearly another hour after that. So yeah, about 20 minutes, right. I was right. I was right about the timeline. So... these cowards had already not only multiple people, not only with rifles, and I'm sure they carry their vests, and they had a ballistic shield. Within 19 minutes after the gunman arrived, they already assembled everything that they needed and refused to go in. They took fire. They had rifles and shield, took fire, and ran. Yep. They were waiting for power weapons to spawn. No, they had them within 19 minutes. That's pretty quick for, like, the situation at hand. And even if they didn't, if there was even just one officer that was there, they had a duty to respond. Well, never mind. In a ethical world, in a just world, they would have an actual, like, legal duty to respond. Investigators believe that this will prove a significant development as it indicates they had more than enough firepower and protection to enter that classroom before they actually did. Authorities have since developed their most extensive timeline yet since the shooting, which an 18-year-old armed with an AR-15 walked into the school, killing 19 kids and 2 teachers. More new information is expected to be presented at the Texas Senate hearing on Tuesday, which is today. The first of 2 consecutive days at the Capitol where members of the public can address lawmakers. The May 24 response by law enforcement has been under heavy scrutiny after the Texas DPS revealed that officers waited more than 70 minutes to confront the shooter, even as trapped students called 911 for help. According to the latest timeline, officers ultimately breached the classroom at 12:50. The shooter entered at 11:33. What a bunch of useless cowards.
They need to get out of the... Well, before I need to talk about Officer Ruiz. He notes that she's been shot. He's talking about his wife. He got a call from his wife. His wife was in room 112 and later died. Unknown officer says they need to get out of the hallway, to which an officer responds, Chief is in there. Chief is in charge right now. Hold on. 11:51, 7 Border Patrol agents enter the west door. There had been a call earlier for BORTAC, and BORTAC was en route. These aren't BORTAC agents that first responded. At 11:52, there's a first ballistic shield that enters the west door. At 11:52 later, UPD officers, units just showing up.
Yeah, 11:52, they had a ballistic shield, exactly as this was saying. Trans rights. Greg Abbott doesn't care about trans people. Vote for Beto. Oh well, Greg Abbott doesn't care much about anything, but yes. If there's anything, they just need to go in. If there is, they just need to go in. Another officer said it is unknown at this time. The agent shot back, y'all don't know if there's kids in there. If there's kids, we need to go in there. Whoever's in charge will determine that. Excellent stuff. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. There was 911 calls coming. How do you not know this? You had, within 20 minutes, you had assembled whatever it is that you needed. Regardless, you should have gone in there. The moment somebody arrived on scene, they should have gone in. Like, that's... You have to stop the active situation. That's the first thing you're supposed to do. Especially in this scenario. Where every second is crucial. One girl called 911 3 times. Yeah, they absolutely knew there was kids there. Like, what exactly is the justification for having all of this weaponry? For having all of this alleged training? For having this budget that is ungodly high, unnecessarily high? Where's it all going to? What's the point? Why is the budget being wasted, essentially?
You may find a master key, but there's 2 master keys. You've got to get both master keys. So there was some frustration in the discussion about this master key doesn't work. Well, it doesn't.
Bro, I've never seen police have a problem getting into places that they really want to get into. You're telling me that there's no way that they could have just breached? Or, I don't know, tried the door?
$12:20, the 4th ballistic shield shows up. At 12:21, importantly, the suspect fires 4 rounds. So if this is a barricaded subject, why is he still firing? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, those kids knew there was police outside. They had to have known.
The chief says at 12:28, let me back up to...
Yeah, you might as well should have told him it was a no-knock raid. Jesus Christ.
Can you get a breaching tool, like a trailer house, like for a trailer house? The chief, we've lost 2 kids. These walls are thin. If he starts shooting, we're going to lose more kids. I have to say, we have to put those to the side right now. Uvalde chief attempts to communicate with the suspect in English and Spanish. Now, the entire communications was always one way. The suspect never communicated, so it was not communication. We're talking at. But an officer, there's a teacher shot in there, to which the Uvalde PD officer replies, I know. The chief, people are going to ask why we're taking so long. We're trying to preserve the rest of the life. The chief, do we have a team ready to go? Do we have a team ready to go? Have at it. Is it 1227? 1228, the chief. There's a window over there. Obviously, the door is probably going to be locked. Probably going to be locked. That is the nature of this place. I'm going to get some more keys to test. 1228, the chief. These master keys are working here, bro. Aren't working here, bro. We have master keys and they're not working. The chief at 1230. Okay, we've cleared out everything except for that room. We still have people down. They're just past the flag to the right. But we're ready to breach, but that door is locked. 1233. The chief. I say we breach through those windows and shoot his expletive head off through the windows. This is an hour and a half, an hour after he entered the building. An hour after he entered the building. 11:35, a hooligan tool arrives through the west door. At 12:38, the chief attempts to communicate with the suspect in English and Spanish. At 12:41, the chief says, just so you understand, we think there are some injuries in there. And so you know what we did, we cleared off the rest of the building.
We think there's some injuries in there. You've got to be kidding me.
11:42, the chief says, we have an expletive problem getting into the room because it's locked. He's got an AR-15 and he's shooting everywhere like crazy, so he stopped.
I'm sorry.
Uvalde chief, they got to get that expletive door open, bro. They can't get that door open. We need more keys or something. 12:46.
This is actually ridiculous.
If y'all ready to do it, you do it. But you should distract him out that window. 11:47. A sledgehammer enters from the east hallway. 11:50. The breach and termination gunfire. At the time, there was a stack of 7 officers that went in. Actually, only 4 went directly in because the door closed, as will happen in some of these operations, and left the 3 out. 3 entered thereafter, shortly thereafter. 5 officers fired rounds, fired rounds at the subject, killing the subject at that time. Chairman, that concludes the timeline. And
this is quite sad. It's like the Three Stooges.
Of course, I know that you may have some questions on the door
tragic.
and other questions that I'm ready to discuss right
disgusting.
now with some of the pictures that we have. And I thank you for the opportunity to have gone through that.
Okay, so you're ready to get some questions now?
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple, and then we'll open it up. You
Seems
said
like the doors are confusing.
outside door was unlocked.
Yes, sir.
Now, was that lock, as I understand it, there at one time was a rock, the teacher removed the rock, the teacher closed the door or heard slam the door. We don't know really what all to believe because we've heard so much stuff.
What?
But was the door closed and did the lock just not work?
The only way you can lock these exterior doors on the west building, there's 4 doors. One is for the library and 3 other entrances, east, west, and south. The only way to do that is from the outside. You can't do it otherwise. So when she knocked the rock out, it closed securely. But there's no way for her to tell that the door was unlocked. And the only way to know that the door was unlocked is go out, close the door, okay, then try it. And so that's the only way you can tell on this particular model.
But he came straight through the door with no problem.
It was unlocked. He walked straight through it.
So did y'all check the lock later to see if the lock was malfunctioning, or was it working?
Yes, the locks were working fine, and that on the exterior doors.
Why are they so focused on these locks and doors, bro? The problem here was clearly, not. Jesus Christ. So like what? That was gonna present a massive obstacle? Like, why are they so adamant about this door? these kids died because an 18-year-old, got hands on military-grade weapon.
Lock was functioning correctly.
The lock was functioning correctly and the door was unlocked. It was closed but unlocked.
I thought when it closed, it was supposed to automatically lock.
Well, you can set it to two. You can set it to two sections, and It's similar to the actual door on the interior as well. You can turn it all the way one direction. It's on.
This is pointless. Yeah. This is another good meme. In 2018, following February's mass shooting of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, which was the Parkland shooting, some students claimed that local government officials stop it. And by the way, Mises is not like some type of radical like. This is not like a left outlet at all. This is literally Mises, like von Mises, I think. The students filed suit naming 6 defendants, including the Broward School District and Broward Sheriff Office, as well as School of Deputy Scott Peterson and campus monitor Andrew Medina. On Monday, though, a federal judge ruled that the government agency had no constitutional duty to protect students who were not in custody. Cool. This latest decision adds to a growing body of case law establishing that government agencies, including police agencies, have no duty to provide to protect citizens in general. Neither the Constitution nor state law imposes a general duty upon police officers or other governmental officials to protect individual persons from harm, even when they know the harm will occur, said Darren L. Hutchinson, a professor and associate dean at University of Florida's School of Law. Police can watch somebody attack you, refuse to intervene, and not violate the Constitution. I mean, yeah, that's true, but like, hello, then what is the point? The Supreme Court has repeatedly held that governments only has a duty to protect persons who are in custody. Okay. Good meme. Police are absolutely useless.
Lock and the strike plate. The lock was functional. The strike plate was not.
Okay, so they're still going on about the door. Tell me why any reasonable person wouldn't come to the conclusion as to why, like, what is the exact point of the police? Exactly. Contreras fire grows to more than 20,000 acres in South Arizona, putting nearby residents on alert. Contreras fire burning in South Arizona has grown to 20,368 acres, prompting possible evacuations for nearby residents. While an evacuation hasn't been mandated, Pima County Sheriff's Department said in a news release early Monday that residents of the Hay Hook Ranch Estate areas should consider voluntarily relocating outside the affected area with family and friends. The department reminded residents to keep in mind the items that might need to for pets, livestock, and to stay updated for the latest fire news. So yeah, this is just another example of what's the direct results of the climate crisis. This is just going to be the new norm. This is just going to continue to happen. We just read about another wildfire just a couple days ago. The fire the burning roughly 40 miles off Tucson is 40% contained. So that's as of yesterday. There's another one. The Kitt Peak. On Friday, the Contreras fire damaged several buildings at the Kitt Peak National Observatory. Oh yeah, this is the same wildfire. Okay, gotcha. Wow. And it's still 40% contained as of yesterday. Jesus. All physical scientific observatory structures are still standing, and in the case of the facilities on the southwest ridge, there's little visible external damage at this time. However, several non-science buildings were lost. The fire is burning in highly flammable grass and brush in steep, rugged terrain that is difficult for firefighters to access. Yeah. The blaze began June 11th. This has been going on for 10 days, about. This has been a particularly bad year for wildfires nationwide, with 30,449 through June 17th, a total higher than any of the same time periods in the past 10 years. According to the National Interagency Fire Center, about 3 million acres have burned in the U.S. so far this year. It's 6 months, folks. I found this channel from the indigenous tag. What tribe are you from? I'm Mohawk. I couldn't tell you. From what I understand, my ancestry goes back to the indigenous folks of Central America, all the way from like Costa Rica, like the indigenous population from Costa Rica, to the north of Guatemala, because of my dad's side. And like that whole area is basically where my ancestry comes from. I wish it was more specific, and I wish I had more details, like specifically. But that's what I found out. So anywhere from central, basically like central to north Guatemala. Yes. Yeah, this is the worst year until next year. Yep. And so it is. Yep. And so it is. I mean, this is going to be the new norm. Well, I'm glad you found this channel, Sonny. Appreciate that.
At the request of the chancellor. So we did that same thing at that location, and of course we came away with recommendations. From that, we made that available to the Commissioner Morath, and we met with him last week. The team met with him last week and went over the assessment. It's a preliminary assessment, the draft, but there's some clear things that do need to change, and I know that he's always looking for ways to improve, and those have been provided to the Commissioner, and I can discuss some of them if you would like.
That's exactly what I want, some recommendations.
Sure. The perimeter. First, the campus perimeter fence is inadequate to prevent threats from accessing the campus, period. Okay, just I mentioned 4-foot fence. It's tubing, very easy, very lax. There's gaps in it. There's a lack of controlled access points. And as you know, the Capitol, we use what? We use these badges, right? To badge in. And the advantage if a teacher leaves or if a student leaves, you can deny them access to come back into it. And you can control access, and you can see when people enter and exit. So that's an advantage. Plus, it's a locking mechanism that's more secure than what we've seen.
Okay. Yep. So the doors. Cool. By the way, this is, I suspect, this is a, what is it? Boondoggle? No, not boondoggle. What is the word? Distraction. I guess, for lack of a better term. This is a distraction to kind of take away some of the responsibility or lack thereof of the police response. So I suspect that they're going to do what is necessary or as much as possible to talk about doors instead of like really assessing the police response here, or like essentially lack thereof.
Your hand and do it. Now, ironically, in the interior classrooms had web inside this interior pane that you see.
I mean, they're going to literally talk about anything but an attempt to actually provide to provide like legitimate solutions that go to the root cause. Like somebody mentioned earlier in this thing about mental health or anything like that, but there's never going to be a massive conservative effort to really give like a universal healthcare system to include like mental health. Like, yeah, okay, sure. Base of PJ, how's it going? You're saying it as I type it. 100% is hand ringing over doors to provide cover for the cops. Correct. And like literally just anything but attempting to get at the root of the problem, right? Like again, somebody side mentioned healthcare, mental health, but these Republicans and conservatives in general, mostly, these people are not going to be in favor of a universal, like even mental health system. It's just not going. The first thing that's going to come out is like, well, who's going to pay for it? It is sick. It is sick.
The door was, we believe, unlocked because it was always kept unlocked because teachers will watch their students for someone else's students if they're out of the room at that point in time. So and even if not, it's easy to breach that particular doorway.
It's easier to breach that particular door. Like, okay. Yeah, we're gonna litigate about doors over dead kids. Yep. Right. That's exactly correct, Astro. They should put a prayer team on every entrance of possible targets, 24/7, and just have them think and pray consistently, and we're in the clear. Absolutely. 100%. Jesus Christ, this is wild. This is wild. Unfreaking real. Alright, well. I mean, it is Texas, so. Folks, unfortunately, it is about that time. I do have to start heading out. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. Don't forget to go on the YouTubes. Subscribe to the channel. Yeah, another day in America. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It does help us out. Spread the word far and wide that this is a chill space to be. Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern time for now. Please keep in mind that starting July 5th, we will be moving to 5 p.m. Eastern time. Join the Discord to keep up with any updates on the channel. Sunny Galva, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Thank you all for the gifted subs. Mayhem Hippie, thank you for the subs and massive amount of biddies. Thank you to Tina_2 for starting an offline hype train when I wasn't here. I appreciate that. That was really cool and a good meme. Thank you. I appreciate that. So please make sure you follow these wonderful folks. Twitch.tv/Tina_2. We'll be heading out there. Twitch.tv/BaseOfPJ. Twitch.tv/AlioShare. Twitch.tv/Heat420_. Nice dude. I can raid into you at 5 p.m. Nice. Yeah, exactly. There we go. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. And Mayhem Hippie kicking off, or ending the stream at 100 biddies. Jesus, thank you so much. I appreciate all that support. You guys are really, amazing. All right, folks. Hang tight. All right, folks, we are heading in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are run 1 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Nice. Check out twitch.tv/baseofpj. See ya.